What if the person you loved most in the world never truly left? Most people, when they lose someone, they grieve, they cry, they slowly, painfully, learn to live without that person. But Maya never learned that. Because 3 years after she buried her husband, he came back. Not in a dream, not in a memory. He was standing in her living room, looking at her, smiling. And the worst part? She wasn't even scared. To understand this story, you first need to understand Daniel. Daniel was not a perfect man. He was messy. He forgot things. He burned toast almost every single morning, and somehow always blamed the toaster. He laughed too loud at his own jokes. He was late to everything except to the things that actually mattered. He was the kind of person who remembered how you took your coffee, who texted you a song because it reminded him of something you said 3 weeks ago, who held your hand not because he thought you needed it, but because he just wanted to. Maya met Daniel when she was 24 years old. She was at a bookshop, standing in the wrong aisle, and he was reaching for the same book she was reaching for. They both grabbed it at the same time. He smiled and said, "I'll let you have it, but only if you tell me if it's worth reading." She read it in 2 days. She called him and told him every single thing she thought about it. They talked for 4 hours that night. 6 months later, they were inseparable. 2 years after that, they got married in a small ceremony with fairy lights and mismatched flowers, and Daniel crying through the entire vow exchange, while Maya tried very hard not to laugh. They had 4 years together. 4 years of messy kitchens and slow mornings and arguments about nothing, and making up quickly because neither of them liked the cold silence that followed a fight. 4 years of being known. Fully, completely known by another person. And then, one rainy Tuesday in October, Daniel was driving home from work. A truck ran a red light. And just like that, the rest of their life together was gone. The first year after Daniel died, Maya barely functioned. She went through the motions, woke up, got dressed, went to work, came home, but it was like watching herself from far away. Like she was a person-shaped shell that had forgotten what it was supposed to be full of. Her sister Priya came to stay with her for the first month. She cooked meals that Maya ate without tasting. She sat beside her on the couch and watched whatever was on TV and didn't push her to talk when she didn't want to talk. That was the kindest thing anyone did for her in that whole year. Just sitting beside her without asking her to be okay. The second year was worse in a different way. Because in the second year, people started expecting her to be better. They meant well. She knew that. But there is something incredibly lonely about grief that goes on longer than people are comfortable with. The world moves forward, and you are standing still, and everyone around you is gently, lovingly, trying to push you along. Her mother said, "Daniel would want you to be happy." Her coworker said, "Have you tried therapy?" My cousin went and it really helped. Priya, very carefully, started mentioning a man from her work. "He's very kind, Maya. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying." Maya smiled at all of them. She went to therapy. She got a little better in the ways you can measure. She started cooking again. She stopped crying in her car. She returned phone calls. But inside, in the place where Daniel used to live, there was just a quiet, permanent ache. By the 3rd year, she had learned to carry it. The way you learn to carry something heavy, not without pain, but without dropping it. She kept his watch on her nightstand. She kept his jacket on the hook by the door. She kept his number in her phone, because deleting it felt like a door she wasn't ready to close. And every morning, out of habit, out of something she couldn't explain, she still set 2 cups on the table. Every morning, she put one away. It started small. The first thing was the candle. Maya had a habit of lighting a candle in the evenings, something she had started after Daniel died, because the smell of it made the house feel less empty. She would light it, read for a while, and blow it out before bed. One night, she forgot. She woke up at 2 in the morning, and the candle was out. She didn't think anything of it. It had probably just burned down. But the next night, she deliberately did not light the candle. She went to bed early, exhausted from work. She did not light it. She woke up at 2 in the morning. The candle was lit. She sat up in bed and stared at it for a long time. Then she got up, walked over to it, and blew it out. She stood there in the dark for a moment. Then she said, to no one, to the empty room, "I'm seeing things." And she went back to sleep. The second thing was the coffee cup. 3 days after the candle, Maya came downstairs in the morning and found the second cup already on the table, placed carefully. Exactly where she always put it before she remembered and put it away. She stood in the kitchen doorway for a full minute. She lived alone. She had locked the doors the night before. No one had been in her house. She picked up the cup, put it away, made her coffee, sat down. Her hands were shaking slightly. "I'm not sleeping well," she told herself. "I'm doing it in my sleep." She almost believed it. The third thing was different. 1 week after the coffee cup, Maya was sitting on the couch reading. It was late. The house was quiet. She had her blanket pulled around her, and she was almost at the end of her chapter. The temperature in the room dropped. Not like a draft. Not like someone opened a window. It dropped the way the temperature drops in old stories, in ghost stories, in the kinds of stories Maya had always told herself weren't real. She pulled her blanket tighter, and then she smelled it. Cedar and sandalwood. Daniel's cologne. She had not smelled that scent in 3 years. She had kept his jacket on the hook, but the scent had long since faded. She had no reason to smell it. There was no explanation. Her book fell closed in her lap. Very slowly, she turned her head. He was standing by the bookshelf. Not solid. Not the way a living person stands in a room. He was there the way a reflection is there, present, but different. His edges were soft, like he was lit from within, but his face was unmistakable. His posture was unmistakable. The way he tilted his head when he was looking at her, she would have known it anywhere. Daniel. She stared at him. He looked at her. And then, quietly, in a voice that sounded like his voice, but also like an echo of his voice, layered and soft, he said, "Hey, Maya." She couldn't speak for a long moment. Then she said, voice cracking completely, "You're 3 years late." He smiled. That familiar, warm smile that she had thought she would never see again. "I know," he said. "I'm sorry." She didn't run. She didn't scream. She didn't convince herself she was dreaming. She sat on her couch and talked to her dead husband for 4 hours. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't the way she would have imagined it if she had ever let herself imagine something like this. It was just them, talking, the way they used to talk. He told her he didn't fully understand how he was there, that there had been a long time of just being near her without being able to reach her. And then, something shifted. He didn't know what. She told him about the past 3 years. All of it. Things she hadn't said out loud to anyone. How she had sat in their car in the driveway for an hour one night, because she couldn't make herself go inside. How she had kept the voicemail he left her the day before the accident, and listened to it so many times the quality had degraded. How she had gone to a grief support group for 3 sessions, and then stopped, because hearing about other people's loss made her feel her own too sharply. He listened the way he always listened, fully, without interrupting, with his whole attention on her. When she finished, he was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I didn't know about the voicemail." "Of course you didn't," she said. "You were dead." He laughed. She laughed. And then she cried. And then she laughed again, which was exactly the kind of emotional chaos that defined their relationship. Over the following days, they settled into something that felt impossibly like a rhythm. He couldn't do anything physical, couldn't turn on the lights or open doors or move objects. The coffee cup and the candle, he still didn't know how those had happened. Some things seemed to slip through when he wasn't trying. When he was just present, just nearby, sometimes the world around her responded. But he couldn't control it. He also couldn't leave the house. He didn't know why. He could be in any room, but when he tried to follow her outside, there was just a wall. Invisible. Soft. But absolute. So Maya came home every evening, and Daniel was there. She cooked dinner and told him about her day. He gave opinions on her work problems, even though he had no idea what her current projects were. She read to him in the evenings. He made comments about the writing. They argued about a book she loved that he thought was overrated. The exact same argument they had been in the middle of when he died. And she felt something loosen in her chest at the familiarity of it. She started sleeping properly for the first time in 3 years. She started eating real meals. She opened the curtains in the morning. She called her sister back the same day instead of letting the calls pile up. From the outside, if anyone had been watching, they would have said, "Maya is finally getting better." And she was. But not for any of the reasons they would have guessed. She was getting better because her husband was in her living room, and even if it made no logical sense, even if she couldn't explain it or share it with anyone, she felt for the first time in 3 years less alone. The problem was that she also felt something else growing, something complicated, something that made her feel guilty and confused and quietly, helplessly happy, all at once. She was falling in love with him again. Or maybe she had never stopped. Maybe this was just what it felt like when love, which had nowhere to go, finally found somewhere to land again. One evening, she said it out loud, because she had never been good at keeping things from Daniel. "This is very confusing," she said. They were sitting in the living room, her on the couch, him in the chair. That had always been his. "What we're doing." "I know," he said. "Because on one hand," she said, "this is the happiest I've been in 3 years. I know that too. And on the other hand," she said, "you're a ghost. You can't come to dinner with me. You can't meet Priya. You can't go anywhere. We can't." She stopped. "This doesn't have an ending, Daniel. Whatever this is, it doesn't go anywhere." He was quiet for a moment. "I know," he said again. And this time, it was heavier. "So what are we doing?" He looked at her carefully. "What do you want to be doing?" "I want to be doing this," she said, honestly. "I want to come home and talk to you. I want things to be the way they are right now. But I also know that's," she exhaled, "that's not a life. That's just a very beautiful waiting room." Daniel didn't answer right away. She looked at him, at the soft edges of him, and felt the same ache she had felt for 3 years. Except now it was sharper because he was right there, and still completely, permanently, impossibly out of reach. "When I was gone," he said finally, "and I was just near you without being able to reach you. The thing that hurt the most wasn't missing you. I was always with you. The thing that hurt the most was watching you stop." She frowned. "Stop what?" "Everything," he said. "You stopped cooking the way you used to. You stopped calling Priya back for days at a time. You stopped going to that bookshop we used to go to. I don't know if you noticed that, but you just stopped going. There were so many small things you loved and you just quietly let them go. Maya didn't say anything. You were still moving through your life, he said. But you were doing it like someone who wasn't really expecting anything from it anymore. Like you were just getting through. I was just getting through, she said. That's accurate. I know. And I understand why. He paused. But Maya, watching that hurt more than anything. Because you are someone who is supposed to be fully in your life. You were never supposed to be someone who just gets through. She looked at her hands. I didn't know how to be fully in it without you. I know, he said quietly. That's why I'm here. A few nights later, Daniel seemed different. He was there when she came home. He was always there when she came home. But that evening, there was something quieter about him. Something slightly more distant. She noticed immediately. You're fading, she said. He didn't deny it. A little. What does that mean? He was quiet for a moment. Then, I think I'm not going to be able to stay much longer. She felt it hit her like cold water. What? I don't control it, he said. I didn't choose to come, and I can't choose to stay. But I can feel that it's shifting. She stared at him. Then we have to. Maya. No, just if this is limited, then we shouldn't waste it. We should. Maya. His voice was very gentle. I need to tell you something. That's why I'm here. That's what I came to say. 1. She stopped. You are allowed to be happy, he said. She looked at him. That's it, he said. That's the thing I came back to say. You are allowed to be happy. You are allowed to fall in love again someday. You are allowed to have a full life. A real one. Not a getting through life. A real life. With all the ordinary things in it. Dinner with Priya. The bookshop on Saturday mornings. Maybe someone who makes you coffee and argues about books with you and holds your hand when you're scared. Maya's eyes filled. I don't want someone else, she said. I know. I'm not telling you to go find someone tomorrow. I'm just telling you that when you're ready, if you're ever ready, it is okay. It does not mean that what we had was less. It does not mean you love me less. It just means you are choosing your life. You sound very wise for someone who burned toast every morning. He smiled. I've had 3 years to think about it. She laughed, wetly, and wiped her face. I don't know how to do this, she said. You already started, he said. Look at the past few weeks. She thought about the dinners she had cooked, the phone calls she had returned, the curtains she had opened. That was because of you, she said. It was you, he said firmly. I just sat with you. The rest was you. She looked at him for a long time, at the soft, familiar lines of his face, at the way the light seemed to come from inside him, at the smile that had, for 4 years, been the last thing she saw before she fell asleep. I love you, she said. I need you to know that. Whatever happens, I love you. Also, Dodd, I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you too, he said. I love you so much that I am asking you to let me go. She slept. She didn't mean to. She hadn't wanted to waste the time, had wanted to stay awake, keep talking, hold on to every last minute. But exhaustion took her somewhere in the middle of the night. And when she woke up, pale gray morning light was filling the room. She lay still for a moment. Then she got up and went downstairs. The kitchen was quiet. She stood in the doorway and looked at the table. 1 cup. Just one. She waited. She stood in the quiet of her kitchen and she waited, longer than was reasonable, because she was not yet ready to stop waiting. Nothing. No soft voice from the corner. No familiar cologne. No flicker of light. She exhaled. She walked to the cabinet and she took out the coffee. She made 1 cup. She sat down at the table. She sat with her 1 cup of coffee and the quiet of her kitchen and the particular quality of the morning light. And she let herself feel all of it, the loss, which was still real. And under it, something else. Something she hadn't felt in 3 years. Something that felt a little like solid ground. After a while, she picked up her phone. She called Priya. Priya answered on the second ring, surprised. It was early. "Hey," Maya said. "I'm okay. I wanted to hear your voice. And I was thinking, if you're free this weekend, there's this bookshop I used to go to. I want to go back." Priya said yes before Maya had finished the sentence. Maya finished her coffee. She washed the cup. She looked at the hook by the door. Daniel's jacket. Still there. She touched the sleeve of it. Gently. Then she put on her own jacket. She picked up her bag. She opened the front door. And she stepped outside. The morning was cool and clear. She stood on her front step and tilted her face up to the gray-blue sky. Somewhere, a bird was singing. The neighborhood was just beginning to wake up around her, a door closing down the street, the sound of someone's car starting. Ordinary sounds. Beautiful, ordinary sounds. She put her hand in her jacket pocket and felt the familiar weight of Daniel's watch. She had moved it there, after the first night he appeared. She always carried it with her. She wrapped her fingers around it for a moment. "Okay," she said quietly. To the morning, to the sky, to wherever he was now. "I hear you." She took a breath, and she walked forward. Some loves are too big for one lifetime. Some people come back not to stay, but to make sure you're okay before they go. And sometimes, the most loving thing a person can do is remind you that you are allowed to keep living. That grief is not a betrayal of love. That moving forward is not the same as letting go. That you can carry someone with you in a watch in your pocket, in the way you take your coffee, in every ordinary thing they taught you to love, and still, gently, bravely, choose your life. If this story stayed with you, share it with someone who might need to hear it today. And if you want more stories like this one, you know where to find us.